Every empire believes that the money is safe, every state claims that the words it gives will be permanent, and every time the person wakes up with the same surprise when these words are crashed, because the date, feeling, and mercy are absolutely again, financial systems are not rarely, or later necessarily collapse. This is not a possibility, it is a cycle. From ancient Rome to Byzantine, from the Middle Age Europe to revolutionary France, from the American Civil War to the largest money crisis of the 20th century, from 1997 to the modern Lebanon, people have repeatedly woke up to the same morning, they have been evaporated, the salary is unenforceable, the futures were silently handed by the systems. Of solid cases. There is no exception, the rule is. The main question is that the systems will not be collapsed, which will stand instantly. The money appears concrete and safe to us, the figures in the bank accounts provide a kind of psychological ground, the national currencies stand like rock, if the money has never been rocky. Money is a collective belief. Trust. And trust, most of the time can be destroyed in one night. That's why the date doesn't just tell the past, the date is a survival guide. Because every big collapse, fortune really keeps what it's worth, and what's worth at once. These tracks remain alive. Those from sight repeat the same errors. The survivors have never been the most believers in the system, the survivors are those who notice the fragility of the system before everyone. Byzantine Empire is one of the most striking examples of it. In the economic heart of this state, which remains more than 1,000 years after the Western Roman collapse, there was a money called solid goldus. This coin was so reliable, from Europe to Middle East, from North Africa to Asia, merchants accepted him without question. The actual reserve allowance of the Middle Ages throughout the centuries. He took his power from the army, not from trust. But the irony of history starts here. If the Roman silver denarius was destroyed in-house with the greediness of the emperors, the Byzantine executives also made the same error gold after centuries. The purity is very low. Nobody noticed. Then slightly thinner. There was no objections. But trust works not with numbers. At one point the crack occurred. And he grew crack. The money standing on the Mediterranean trade turned into a political table at a time. Economic stability solved. The empire weakened. Who won in this process? Not trusting government promises. Real gold has won the land and the presence that the state cannot be accessed. This is one of the first and most painful classes of history. States cannot resist the charm of watering money. And when they do it, the real value escapes to places where they can't imitate. However, managers are not born from playing with money. Some collapses come with shocks from outside. In the 14th century, it is the most difficult example of the Black Viva of Europe. Between 1347 and 1351, almost half of the European population died. Cities were empty, villages destroyed, trade stopped. At first glance this appears just like a disaster. But economic results are more complex. By minimizing the number of people, labor value won. The survivors were able to charge higher fees. Soil and food have become plenty of compared to people. With liquidity, silver, those who have the power to do or at least work have won the negotiation power at one time. Once the land worth of wealth was sold to no expense. Homes were abandoned. Fields remained unfamiliar. The world for survivors turned into a brutal but real buyer market. If this table comes familiar to you, it is not accidental. There was something similar to COVID pandemic. Supply chains koptu, governments were pressed trillions, the system was standing, but the price was evenly distributed. Their existence is richer. Those living with Masla left behind. Pandemiler does not only live, redistribute wealth. It was always like during the date. Renaissance Florence shows us another fact, there's nothing that says it's so big that it can't be. In the 14th century, the financial center of Europe was home to giant banking families such as Bardi's and Peruzzler. These banks debt the kings. The largest errors of the UK 3. He was trusting Edward. King paid his debt. Banks crashed. Deposit holders mavaldu. Trade stopped. The city was dragged to Causa. People learned this painfully, the size is not security, does not provide reputation protection. This course was repeated in Lehman Brothers in 2008 and in Lebanon banks in 2019. Institutions are not to protect you, but to profit. And they drag you with them when they fall. The battles show how fragile the money is in the barest form. He had to print both North and South money in the American Inner War. North's greenbacks lost value with inflation. The graybacks of the South were completely collapsed. The inflation has reached thousands of %. Salaries have become unable to get a bread. People took money with sacks, but they were hungry. When the battle was finished, the Confederation allowance was actually paid. They were not trusted in the paper, they had soil, food, and concrete goods. This is a big but rarely described money crash on the history of America. The French Revolution shows how money can be quickly destroyed even without revolution. Paper money called assignat was supported with church soils in theory. In practice, it was unlimited. Every new edition was worthless. The inflation exploded. Farmers refused. Food was withdrawn from the market. Bread was back. Revolution severed his own money. The winners of this collapse were still the same: food, gold, property owners. Kabdler was ordinary people who believe in the promises of the state. 1997 Asian crisis showed us another face of Borkin. Countries borrowed in foreign money were drowned in the collapse of dredge regimes. Saves. Injustice broke. IMF doors were stolen. The suffering of pain was not global funds, but ordinary citizens. This crisis taught us, borrowing someone else's money is to guarantee swab in the storm. And all this has not been in the past. People in Lebanon saw that banks in a morning locked their doors. Deposits frozen. The currency lost more than 90%. A lifetime of labor was destroyed in several months. People learned that their money was not stolen, it is not only accessible anymore. The money on the bank was not a case, but a debt you give. And the crisis could not be paid back instantly. So the question after all of them is, how does it protect human self while everything crashes? Date does not give a single answer but offers clear patterns. He maintained gold in Byzantine. Liquidity after Cara Viva. Don't trust banks blindly in Florence. Concrete goods in the American Civil War. Food and property in France. Avoid foreign money debt in Asia. Early departure from banks in Lebanon. Patterns vary but the theme is the same. It is possible to see what the actual value is, not to be alive, or to rely on the blind of the institution. And there is a disturbing fact: the collapse is not only a disaster, but also an opportunity. The destruction for unprepared people is the moment for those who are prepared. After Cara Viva, peasants became the landowner. After 2008, naked ones were married. Day tells us, the protection is not only defense, it is to be in the position that others have to sell. But fortune is not just what they have. It is worth what they can do. People standing throughout the date have not only gold ones, but they are able to produce value. People who do bread, tenerin, grow, carry. It loses the meaning of money in the crisis but never production. People always continue to eat, live. And those who can meet these needs are not poor for a long time. No date trust is rewarded. Rewards date awareness. And the main question is, will everything be promised in your hand when crashing, or what can you really keep?